Oh, good grief. Hello. This is my review of The Irishman. Where to begin? This movie? It was a mess. I thought this movie was a real mess. The Irishman, directed by Martin Scorsese, put out by Netflix, is the story of some mafiosos' rise and fall. If that sounds like at least four or five other films in Martin Scorsese's oeuvre, you would be correct. It's the exact same thing as Casino. It's the exact same thing as Goodfellas or Mean Streets, except it's longer and way less focused. And it's 3.5 hours long, 3 hours and 35 minutes. And ooh boy, ooh boy. I saw something online that was like, here's how to watch Mean Streets as a miniseries. And on the one hand, it would have been better digested as a miniseries. I watched the whole rodeo all at once. But even as a miniseries, I can't see it being. It was just boring. Anyway, first thing I want to talk about is Robert De Niro. This is the first real thing we're going to talk about is Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro does not have it. He is over the hill as an actor and entertainer. He is over the hill as a physical specimen, and that's going to come into play in a minute. That's going to be an important point. The man has given up a long time ago. You can see it in his films. You can see it in his personal life. He's not the same actor that you remember in Taxi Driver or Mean Streets or whatever else. He's not the same. He's almost put in this film as a sort of I don't know, the whole element of casting is sort of it feels traditional in a like, okay, we got Joe Pesci and we got Al Pacino, and then we have to have Robert De Niro there as well. But so Joe Pesci and Al Pacino are fine. Al Pacino especially, he's still got it in this film for the most part. But Robert De Niro is just like a dead-eyed ball of cookie dough. This movie is a mess of old age makeups, young age makeups, digital de-aging. You see Robert De Niro and this sort of, it's like they do these tricks to make him look however old he's supposed to be, but he still looks like frumpy old Robert De Niro, and his hair is really unrealistically dyed, and you're like, is the hair dye bad, or does the character dye his hair badly? And there are scenes when Robert De Niro, he's called to be physically active. He has to stomp on someone's hand. He has to shoot someone, but he has this. I don't know if this was intentional or what, but he has this shuffling baby quality about him. I assume it's because he's just like a decrepit old man at this point. He's just like shuffling around, barely able to stand up. His knees ache, his hips hurt. And it's really awkward and just, I don't know, distracting to watch. His whole character, for at least the first 2 hours, is just mostly a blank slate. He barely conveys any emotion. The most of emotion he conveys, the most sort of character conflict. There's almost no conflict when it comes to his character. It occurs in about the 3 hour mark. I'm gonna not get into any spoilers. There's not too many spoilers, but anyway, for a character for you not to like get any sense of what he's feeling, or that he's a active, living, breathing person until the 2 hour mark, that's not good. That's not to say that like you can have sort of blank slate characters. You can sort of have audience insert characters, but if a person has to have like a sympathetic face, I guess, like if you're not given a lot to do in the script, if you're not given a lot of heavy emotional, you gotta communicate with your eyes. Someone like Channing Tatum, he was in Foxcatcher. He's just sort of like a dim brute, but he still has like sympathetic eyes, and you like watching his face, the sort of subtle emotions. Robert De Niro does not have that subtlety. Whether it's all covered up by the makeup, by the digital de aging, I think it's just his own like sad old man listlessness. He doesn't have any like emotional, I don't know, anything below the surface. I don't know. Uh, he's not. The film is called The Irishman, and Robert De Niro is the Irishman in the title, but he's the least Irish person. Robert De Niro is a man who's been known throughout film history for being Italian American, and you can't just put him in a role and say, "Oh, you're the Irishman. Your last name is Sheeran, and you're the Irishman." Uh, that's stupid. It's stupid. Um, I had I had I like I like Martin Scorsese. I like what he's been doing for the last few years. I think the last thing he did was Silence, and I really like that. That was another movie that was about 3 hours, but I liked it. I liked Silence a lot. He's sort of like made a point of making films that are specifically not like the thing he's known for. Like, oh, these are all mafioso films. He's making his last few movies were like steps outside that box, and then this box was just like 1 foot right back in. Even before I watched it, I was just like not excited about the trailer. I was like, I've seen this before. I don't need to watch this story being told for the 10th time. And in the beginning of the movie, it plays in the still of the night, and it really just it's like it's like a parody. It's like somebody doing a parody of a Scorsese film. And then, after a while, I sort of settled into it. First, like hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, I was enjoying it. I settled in. I liked it. As much as I say Robert De Niro's character is a blank slate, there's his sort of path to becoming a mafioso hitman is very believable. He was in the army, and then it sort of starts off with just like small petty crimes, and then he sort of gets into a little bit of a trouble that he has to fix by killing a guy, and it's sort of believable. And even while he's not super engaging, you're sort of pulled along after him, and then he meets Jimmy Hoffa, and Al Pacino's really great and energetic in it. And then about the 2 hour mark, it's just like they forgot that there was a movie happening, and just nothing happens for at least, I don't know, 45 minutes. And the whole movie just sort of has this aimless, unfocused, like a cow that's got loose from its pen, and it's just sort of walking around with just like very lazy eye. It's a very nice, amiable creature, the dairy cow, but it's also just sort of, just sort of dreamy, unfocused. And that's sort of what this film felt like. Like, yeah, just a lazy cow. Just a fat, lazy cow. Speaking of fat cows, back to the man. So all this makeup's like a mess. Like, I don't know what it is about old age makeup, why it's so rarely done well, but anyway, so there's this guy. He was the one cop in The Wire, and for some reason they chose to cast this guy and to put him in like a really not convincing fat and old age makeup, and it was just the tipping point of just like everybody in this film has, I don't know how many layers of silicone glued to their face, and it's just never really working. It's hard. I don't know. It's weird. It's like nobody's age matches their character. It's sort of like flip flops back. I don't know. It was just exhausting. Good grief! It was like nobody told. It was like nobody told him no. You have to assume that's what happened because it's a Netflix thing. You know, they're called Netflix. Netflix. What do you think of when you think of Netflix? You think of I don't know, The Office, and then they're trying to court these big name directors. And what are they going to do? Are they going to tell them no? Are they going to say this is too long? You know, nobody told him to tighten this up. Nobody told him to cut this out to get from point B to C 50% quicker. That's what it feels like. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. This movie was, I don't know. I was there. I experienced it. I watched it. I don't regret it, but it doesn't live up to expectations. You watch a watch a Martin Scorsese film. You have a certain set of expectations, and this just was just a floundering, overindulgent, emotionally flat. It really was that's another good key point. Is just how emotionally flat it was most of the time. There's no there's no great rise to emotion. There's no great pitfalls. There's no great triumphs, which is fine too. It's just oof. Let me think. Do I have anything else to say about this? Uh, I know I'm talking like it's the worst thing in the world, and it wasn't the worst thing in the world. It just really wasn't good. Again, it's the same story I've seen a million times. If you wanted to get the same chemical reaction that you're expecting to get from this movie, you can just go back and watch Casino. You can go back and watch Goodfellas because it's just a sort of variation on a theme, sort of an appeal to tradition. Like, hey, we got the band back together. We got the band back together. We're a bunch of old, over the hill, Italian American gangsters. I don't know. I don't know. Um, that's it. This is the end of this talk. Goodbye.